Mike, Lynn, Memorial League, Week 4, Power Rankings. Brought to you by
the Matt Barnes School of Anger Management. Hey guys, do you want to learn how to not only control your anger and certainly never treat your estranged ex-wife like she's your possession and get in a fight with your old teammate, but also have really cool tattoos and maybe even wear a fedora? Well, if so, you should take lessons from me in anger management at the Matt Barnes School of Anger Management. All right. Thanks for the word from our sponsor there. Welcome to the Week 4 rankings. I'm going to apologize in advance. There's two things. One, there's no co-host this week due to some just scheduling problems on my end. And two, sorry we're getting this out late. I guess a third thing, there's probably going to be some background noise, so I'll apologize for that too, because we have the kiddo running around and the dogs might bark. All right, so without much further fanfare, we're going to get right to it this week. All right, your Week 4 results. Man at Work defeats Weapons of Matt's Distraction 40-23. Looks like you got 23 points from your kicker. Hey, congratulations. 23 points from a kicker. 40-point win. You can't be too proud of that one, though. Stuntcock. Salamis. The homies. 84-68. In spite of 24 points from Devonta Freeman. So I got a pretty balanced performance. Sorry, Todd. You got salamied. Second high points. Oftentimes is the first loser. Meat Eaters beat Stern Rake 50-32. The high scorer from this matchup was Alex Smith. Tells you what kind of matchup that was. Yesterday's Corn throttles Team Mangravy 66-58. I guess Throttles is a little bit strong, but Vincent Jackson, bit of a breakout game, almost 16 points. And yesterday's Corn bounces back with a win. Injured Reserve narrowly defeats Juchi's Giant Jocks 56-51, behind 15 points from Le'Veon Bell. And Logan's Heroes defeat Tommy's Terminators 46-42. High score in the game. Alan Hearns, 14 points in a losing effort. Not a very impressive box score there. League average down this week to 51.7 points. Congratulations to the winners this week. Better luck next week to the losers. And let's move on to the rankings. Oh, first, though, congrats. We didn't have any single or below 20-point scores, no single-digit scores, nothing too embarrassing aside from a large lineup gaffe, which will be addressed in one slide. Before we get in the rankings, going to grade some transactions. Had a trade, two trades. One, I might end up regretting. I trade away Phillip Rivers. My love for Phillip Rivers is widely known, and I probably gave him away for too little. I'm going to be counting on Mariota. I think Tom wins this one, and I might regret it come playoff time for two reasons. I might not have a good quarterback, and I might be facing a team that has someone like Rivers. So I guess I'm setting the price. The price has kind of been set in that voided trade, but anyway, Rivers is gone. I'll miss him. Have fun with him. The other one, a kicker trade. Dave had to make a trade, and Sean got the 12th rounder on him. And there's something fun about seeing Dave on the wrong side of the kicker trade. So those are your transactions for Week 4. All right, moving on to the rankings. Last place remains the same. Weapons of Matt's Distraction. Nice name. Not. Last week, you're 12th. 0-4. Your last place in the South Division. You had Big Ben in your lineup, and it was good that you sent the email explaining it sucks that happened to you. But nonetheless, I'm still going to make fun of it. and I have to say, it's bad luck, not lineup mismanagement. For the rest of the lineup, it's bad luck. You had a decent performance from Duke Johnson, which is a good sign for your team. And then I think Kobe Fleener also had a good performance on the bench. So could have been a more competitive affair. However, you remain last in record and last in points scored. So I can't rank you higher than 12th. Sorry, Matt. Moving on. Number 11, Juchi's Giant Jocks. Last week, you're 11th. 1-3. That's a 2-game losing streak. Last in the West Division. Hey, you made the kicker trade, and you did have kind of a tough loss this week, scoring in the 50s above league average for the week, and losing is always tough. Forsett kind of broke out, so that could be a good sign for your team going forward. He's looking like less of a bust. CJ still killing you. Manning being uneven, still hurting. And then I was trying to see why you kind of lack some depth. And when you draft 3 defenses and 3 kickers, and yes, I realize you just got a 12th rounder for one of those kickers, and there was some uncertainty with the guys that you picked, like Zach Hocker, who's still uncertain position. His position's a little tenuous. However, there's no upside to drafting 3 defenses. And it hurts when you need wide receivers and running back and skill position players when you roster these guys who their defenses there's almost no upside to that. You might trade for a late round pick, but you can get gem young players late in the draft and they can turn into keepers, or you can trade them. And so I have a feeling that draft strategy, Sean, is what is keeping you down. Moving on. Number 10, forgive me while I sip my cider on this cool fall evening. Man at work. Last week, 10th, you did win. Got a streak going. But a 40-point victory is hardly a victory. You're last in the North Division. And I looked, and I inquired about Eddie Lacy because what I found is interesting. Eddie Lacy, slow starter last year. First 4 weeks of the season, he looked like a total bust, which I forgot. I owned him in a different league last year and should have remembered. But maybe he's just a slow starter. Maybe he's about to break out. The Antonio streak was broken. The 5-catch 50-yard streak. I thought he'd be fine with Vic. And gosh, they just horrible play calling. That game was a joke with Vic in there, and it's Thursday night for you, so maybe a full week of practice with Vic at the helm will turn things around. Looks like Tevin may have been usurped, so some upside that you had in a rookie running back might not be there with Devontae kind of taking the reins there. And I know this isn't related to your team this year, but it appears that you're right about Allen Hurts. He might be a good wide receiver. Moving on. Number 9, Stern Rake. Moving down a spot, Adam took the loss last week. Cooks, man, I own him in my home league, and so I feel your pain. They can't get it together and get him the ball. Another guy that's on your roster that has been really underperforming, Charles Johnson, officially getting the bus card. He's missing time and didn't have the same rapport with Teddy that he did in the offense last year. And it may end up being that number 2 guy becomes Stephon Diggs if last week was any indication. The other thing that's kind of holding you back, the Lions' offense being bad, because you have 2 potentially really, really good players in Abdullah and Golden Tate, and they're not doing anything for you. Now, I realize they've played 2 very good defenses in a row, playing Seattle last week, and they played Denver before that, and they've got the Cardinals this week. So it's not necessarily getting easier, but slightly easier. And certainly in the run game, the Cardinals have given some things up. And Abdullah had a season high in snap percentage. And Joyke Bell's out again. So Abdullah could be still kind of, your season might hinge on him having sort of a breakout over the remainder of the season. and certainly Andrew Luck getting back to his expected performance, which will take him getting healthy. But until that happens, you can't be ranked higher than number 9. Moving on. Number 8, Team Mangravy. Moves down 3 spots with the loss. Andre Johnson being one of your restricted guys, I think, is hurting quite a bit because he's done nothing. I think your success going forward is a little bit dependent on a TJ Yeldon breakout, which could actually happen. He's getting a lot of snaps, and he is clearly the lead dog in Jacksonville. So they've got a pretty easy matchup this week in Tampa. Maybe you'll see a breakout. And then, of course, it looks like Hillman has usurped CJ, which is a pain, I feel, despite not owning him in this league. So, hey, maybe you have another lead dog there. But it's tough for me to really look at the team and see where the stars are and where you're going, how you're going to get in the playoffs with the roster that you have. Maybe it's time to mix it up and make a trade. All right, moving on. Number 7, yesterday's corn. Moving up 2 spots, and I was called out a little bit by Waldman about the wide receiver depth, and Jordy injury. I call that the curse of the Jordy. Never known a team to own Jordy Nelson and actually have overall success. So, that's what happens. I think you're suffering on Marshawn's health right now. If he can get healthy, your team's going to be pretty good. If not, it's going to be week to week. You're going to need stuff like what happened last week with Vincent Jackson having a big breakout game. So if your running backs get healthy, pretty formidable team, despite having so-so wide receivers. Otherwise, could be a long rest of the season. But you are moving up with a 66-point performance. Moving on. Number 6, Logan's Heroes. Moving up 1 spot from 7th at 2-2 with a win last week. Julio looked human. Only had 39 yards, but didn't matter. He still won. Looks like Mike Wallace might be an actual number 2 receiver. He scored a touchdown, and this is coming off an 80-yard game before. If the Vikings pass game can rise from 32nd in the league, you might have a legit wide receiver 2 there. Ingram scores a lot of touchdowns, but we saw Spiller kind of not break out, but make a big impact at the end of that game, and you'd think that he's going to be worked into the offense further because Ingram, although he scored his touchdowns, has struggled. So something to keep an eye on the rest of the way because he certainly have some uncertainty at running back between Ingram and McCoy. Number 5, Meat Eaters. Last week or 6, so another win, another move up the rankings. And look, a first-place team, first in the West Division. I called Hyde legit last week, and then I took another look, and I actually don't know that's true. The whole offense is bad, but he has not done anything since week 1. You got Martavis Bryant potentially coming back, and the one thing that Michael Vick can do is throw the deep ball. So something to keep an eye on there, although Bryant has not practiced the last 2 days. They don't have to issue an injury report on him. You probably weren't planning on playing him anyway, but he might not be back right at the end of the suspension. And the other thing, Chris Ivory seems to be confounding for you. You can't get him in the lineup when he has a good game. 166 yards and a touch on the bench. Didn't matter. He still won, but you've got several good running backs, but getting the right 2 in the lineup can be tough to do. And then lastly, Dave, wrong end of a kicker trade. I love that. But how about just draft 2 relatively good kickers, and then you don't have to have this problem instead of drafting like a million. Anyway, you're moving up, trending in the right direction. Number 4, one of the biggest movers of the week, Tom, falls from number 1. 2 losses in a row. Although you did really, I think, strengthen the team with the addition of Rivers. And, if coming off last week, if we hadn't agreed to the trade the week before, I might not have done it. Rivers 300-something yards, 3 touchdowns, despite a lot of uncertainty on his line and at the skill positions. You own 2 Cardinals running backs, and I think you own the wrong 2. Not having Chris Johnson is going to be painful. However, I still think this team's very good. You have a nice cache of young wide receivers with Hearns and Dorsett and some others, Cooper, to go along with the vets. So probably wouldn't take much to get back up to number 1. What it will actually take is probably Murray performing up to his level, which might take some different scheme changes or him being utilized a little bit differently. But until then, this is probably a pretty fair ranking for you. Moving on. Number 3, Stuntcock. I moved myself up a place, 4-0. I've won 4 games in a row. I did have high points. The reason I didn't rank myself higher is because I made the Rivers trade. Now I'm relying on Mariota, and I do have a lot of confidence in him, but it's a gamble, and so it's tough to rank myself ahead of the 2 teams that are ahead of Todd and Justin. So Foster being back, I think he'll have a big performance tonight. Still a lot of upside there, and I've got a lot of receiver depth, but have given myself probably an unnecessary question mark at the quarterback position, considering I don't really have a backup to Mariota going forward. We'll see if that matters or not. Number 2, the homies. Look at you now, up from number 3. And weird, I beat you, but I still ranked you ahead of me. It's because you had the second high points. I mean, you would have beat any other team. Looks like Devontae, who I actually like coming out of Florida State, but I think as a pro, I was like, not doing much for me. He looks legit. Gurley, holy cow, he busted through the Cardinals defense. The other thing, though, is if you're going to put both those guys in your lineup, you're wasting wide receivers on the bench. So you're going to have that wide receiver problem now that you're not a run-and-shoot offense. If you're starting Vernon Davis and starting 2 running backs, now you've got to decide between 4 pretty good, or at least 3 very good receivers on which 2 are going to be in your lineup. So it'll be interesting to see if you can manage that properly going forward. Nearly ranked you number 1. Because you are scoring tons of points. But the number 1 team, I'm afraid, is Injured Reserve. So moving up 1 spot with a second win in a row, 3-1, first in the East Division. And simple reasons, AP plus Le'Veon Bell the rest of the way is going to be a nightmare for everyone who faces Justin going forward. So this week being the exception, because you got a tough bye week situation with AP on bye and Brandon Marshall on bye. The lineup is kind of tough. So I am running longer than I had planned, so that's all I'm going to – I don't want to give the shortest amount of time to the number 1 team, but I think it's obvious that Justin is the number 1 team with that lineup. And some room to probably trade away one of the 3 quarterbacks now that Bradford actually put up a good box score. Eli's pretty solid, and Tyrod Taylor, I think, with his legs will always probably get some points. So it's a luxury maybe, perhaps, at the quarterback. Maybe I should call you up. But we're going to move on to the predictions for the week. Weapons of Matt's Distraction gets off the snide with a 49-48 win over yesterday's Colin. Tommy's Terminators gets back in the win column with a 61-53 win over the Meteors. Stuntcock defeats Team Mangravy by 10 points. The Homies continue their reign of high points with a win 70-64 over Manatwork. Logan's Heroes manages a win over the number 1 team, Injured Reserve. And Juchi's Giant Jocks takes down Stir and Rake 47-39. Alright guys, that's all I got for the week. Hopefully I have a co-host again next week. I think it makes it a little more entertaining. As always, good luck to everyone. Congratulations to winners. Better luck next week to the losers.